Hi everyone, I'm Jo Hayter and I'm the Executive Director at International Women's Development Agency here in Melbourne. Thanks for joining us as we mark International Women's Day for 2013, 102 years old this year. And I said mark the day because while it's absolutely a day or a week to celebrate our successes and achievements and think back about all that we've gained through history, it's also a day to spotlight reality. And that is the persistence of active discrimination and denial of women's rights. It's also the structural factors around us that continue to limit or exploit women and girls in developed and developing countries alike. Much has changed for women of my generation compared to those of my mums and my grandmothers, certainly. Lots of it's very positive. Women's business is becoming everybody's business, and that's great. We see increasing commitments from governments, donors, and other agencies to this goal. But equally, and despite centuries of struggle, advocacy, organising, international conferences, arguments about rights, and a plethora of evidence on the benefits of inclusion and equality, gender equality has not been achieved anywhere. For IWDA, a focus on rights, on gender equality, and on demonstrating how this makes a difference is a part of building a more secure, just, fair, and sustainable world. IWDA is 28 years old, and we continue to be the only Australian development agency entirely focused on women's rights and gender equality. Our focus is on transforming rules, transforming cultural practices and their institutions so that they work better for all of us, men and women, boys and girls, of differing abilities, ethnicities, religions, or sexual identity and preference. We see partnership across Asia and the Pacific as integral to success and change, including informing our thought leadership about changing global priorities. Our partnerships advance issues of shared concern, be they social, economic or political. Whether the focus is refuges and safe houses, village households and communities, workplaces or the parliaments in Asia and the Pacific and global conferences, IWDA knows that the longer we work in partnerships in our region, the stronger we all become. In 2013, IWDA is really strategically focused on economic justice and opportunity, civil and political participation, safety and security, and the elimination of violence against women. The face of IWDA in action is a movement towards equality that spans Asia and the Pacific. And it's the sum of these parts that's bringing permanent changes to women's lives and embedding equality step by step. Let me share a few examples with you. In Fiji, our long-term partners in working to make space for women's voices are now leading political reform. Through our support to groups of women workers in garment factories in Cambodia, including resource centres and mentoring programs, we're beginning to see employment security and collective action that changes unsafe, exploitative workplace conditions and demands equal pay. That's coming from the voices of the workers themselves. In the Solomon Islands, one of IWDA's partners has established women's savings clubs which reach out to the remote islands. 250 of 700 women that we've been working with in those savings clubs have been involved recently in a decision to pool their savings into a collective investment to purchase solar panels. Each of those panels can supply electricity to 5 other households. So as a result, we'll now see 1,250 homes with electricity for the first time. And it's not just about the electricity, it's all the benefits that that brings for education, labour saving, and for women's status as the enablers of that change. As we look to the wider world, for the last 13 years, the Millennium Development Goals, or the MDGs as so many of us know them as, have provided a focus for global development efforts. 2015 will see governments agree on a new set of global priorities. In the current MDGs, the focus on gender equality is narrow, and there is a silence about key issues such as violence against women. The post-2015 agenda and a new set of global priorities is already under development, Many people and organisations are rightly urging a focus on narrowing inequality within and between nations, and this agenda has also been proposed by the civil society to the G20 to be hosted in Australia next year. But if inequality is a priority, then gender equality must remain an explicit and visible global goal, because it's the most persistent and pervasive inequality we face. We must also sharpen our focus on the process. Inclusive goals must be matched by inclusive practice. If the goals and the process by which the new agenda is set do not meaningfully involve women as well as men, they should be regarded as illegitimate. Participation of women will result in better decisions. Our priority is working for post-2015 arrangements that are inclusive, accountable and legitimate. For the next 2 years, Australia will have a seat as a non-permanent member of the United Nations Security Council. IWDA will be working with like-minded organisations to encourage and support the Australian Government to actively promote human security during its term. War, conflict and peace affect women and men differently. But too often our governments, our global forums and our TV screens show the absence of women in decision making about peace and conflict and show women only as the victims. Australia has actively supported Security Council resolutions on women, peace and security. It's to be acknowledged. One measure of the success of Australia's Security Council term, however, must be how the government integrates in all its deliberations Australia's commitment to gender equality, in addition to advancing peace and security as a constructive middle power. Sustainable peace needs to be grounded in equity, justice and care for people and planet, and involve those most affected by the conflict and with the most vested in its prevention. So let me just finish by saying it's really fundamental to IWDA in our practice that we match our ambition with practical, concrete planning that translates into action. That's who we are, that's how we work. IWDA emerged 28 years ago because of issues that needed to be addressed. The absence of women's perspectives and feminist analysis, and a determination to demonstrate how things can and must be done differently. These needs remain just as compelling as when IWDA began in 1985. Feminism is more than an individual identity. It's a way of seeing issues differently. It's the key to addressing the huge challenges that we face globally. Gender equality isn't women's business, it's everybody's business, and it's central to a sustainable world. Women's rights are human rights. So IWDA is about rights, not development, and we're about change, not charity. I hope that you will continue to support IWDA and spread the message about the distinctive work that our agency does and why it matters. Let me finish by wishing you all just a really happy International Women's Day for 2013, and I thank you and I hope we shall meet soon.